Township, 1310 WADB Asbury Park, a Town Square media station. WOBM News presents Ask the Senator, your chance to bring issues that affect you and the Jersey Shore straight to your representatives at the State House. The phones are open at 732-505-1160. Follow the show on Twitter and tweet your questions to @WOBM. Ask the Senator begins now. Beach Radio, 1160, 1310, and mybeachradio.com.
Welcome to springtime in Ocean County. I'm Tom Longelli. Weather warms up. Not too long a time, election campaigns will be warming up too. June primary for the governor's seat and for every seat in the legislature. And because all of those legislative spots are open, this is a great time to get in touch with your state senator and ask him for something. This is a right handy time. We've got one right here for the next hour. Republican Senator Chris Connors, representing the 9th District, and you know what that covers. That's Southern Ocean County, and we've got parts of Northern Atlantic, Burlington, and that would be about it, right?
That's it.
Okay,
three
that's
counties,
enough?
Portions of three counties.
Portions of 3 counties, that's enough for you?
That's plenty for me.
I haven't seen you in a while. How you been?
Well, very busy actually, but doing good. Doing good. Our
Well, you don't have
district
to drive
office has
back
been
and-
extremely busy. A lot of people call and take advantage of the fact that we're available, and so that keeps us hopping all day.
Mm-hmm. Well, you don't have to drive them back and forth to Trenton right now. So
Right now, we're on budget break, and so we've had the luxury of not having to go to Trenton. Actually, you might say that the taxpayers have had the luxury of not having the legislature in session in Trenton. But we'll be back probably the beginning of May through the end of June for the enactment of the budget, which has to be adopted by Constitution by the end of June, July 1st. And so we'll be busy during those times and trying to get a lot done that hasn't been done over the last couple of months.
let me ask you something about the whole budget thing. It's been in my mind for years, and I've never been able to ask anybody. But one of the things that always happens, and one of the reasons why the budget's always in trouble, is because they're working on projections, which are basically, we don't know what this is going to be, but we think this is what it's going to be. Why do they do that? Why don't they budget it the way we have to budget our household? And say, okay, I've got this much money, this is how I have to spend it, until the next time I have this much money.
Well, I think the Chris Connors answer is that it would be devoid of any of the political process. You see, certain administrations will use the budget projections in order to balance the budget.
Mm-hmm.
And each and every year, as you point out, that every time that they overproject budget revenues, we have a shortfall toward the tail end of the year. But one way to get a balanced budget in the state's terms is to over forecast revenues. You can't do that on the municipal level. In fact, our state has enacted appropriate laws that requires municipalities to be on a cash basis of accounting. And so a municipality cannot anticipate in revenues any more than the percentage of revenues collected in the previous year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what keeps municipalities solvent and sound. In fact, municipalities have better credit rating than what the state of New Jersey has collectively throughout the state. And so the enactment of those laws that restrict debt, restrict expenditures, these are all regulations that the state itself doesn't impose upon the state budget, but we do on the municipal budget. So we would do well to take a page out of what we tell everybody else to do.
Now, you're home on break, and you're hanging at the office a lot more often.
Right.
What sort of calls are you getting? What sort of problems are people coming in with? What's the one that sticks out at?
Right now, you'll hear from a lot of people that'll email and call in regarding the state budget.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the state budget has a constituency for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so whether it's tag grants or tuition aid assistance, or whether it's funding for human service programs or transportation, many of the folks in the districts will let their legislators know what's important to them and hoping to secure full funding or don't experience reduced funding in those areas of the budget. And so our level of emails will grow quite significantly in the months of April and May, and portions of June, before the finalization of the state budget. So we hear a lot from people. And then we have the ordinary constituent service issues, anything that affects a state agency, whether it's the state motor vehicle agency, state DEP. There are people that have problems in getting their driver's licenses that will contact our office with motor vehicles. So we have the ordinary outreach from people that take advantage of the use of our office of constituent services. And often we can be helpful in that regard.
Senator Chris Connors is our guest, and you're welcome to talk to him at 732-505-1160. I'm proud of you about elections.
Mm-hmm.
Every seat's up. We know that. And I'm not really looking at this from, I'm going to ask the same thing I asked Senator Singer last month, and that was Trump syndrome. I mean, people are empowered in a whole different way now than even the Tea Party was back almost a decade ago. And they're also equipped differently now. And, I mean, there are, if you count up everybody who's running, who wants to be governor and has the wherewithal right now, there's 17 people.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen that before. Like 11 just from the major parties, and then there's 6 from the outlying party. Sitting from your perspective, is the outsider syndrome healthy, or is it disruptive? Because a lot of people in Washington thought it was going to be, oh boy, the whole apple cart's going over now, and that has not really been the case as we move out. It's been give and take all the way through.
Well, I happen to be one that thinks that more people that get involved in the elective process is a healthy thing. And in fact, people should exercise their ability to go to the polls. Unfortunately, that hasn't always been the case. But you know, what's happened in our country is the fact that a number of people have been feeling disenfranchised. They don't feel that they're served and represented very well. A lot of people have had many difficulties in their lives at not being addressed by government. They see it languishing. They see Congress fighting. We fail to achieve a comprehensive immigration reform, which shouldn't be very difficult at all. This is a country of immigrants. We should be able to solve that problem. Our parents or grandparents may have been products of immigration, and for some reason we just seem to have this difficulty in the United States of getting together and coming up with a satisfactory solution. The economy has been awful, and people can say what they want, that say the economy is improved, and the way I see things and from the people I talk to and what I've witnessed, that that's not the case. And so when you deal with these frustrations in your life, this is an outcry. Now, some can say they support Trump and some can say they didn't support Trump.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact of the matter is one of the reasons why you have Trump is because of the outrage that's been expressed by the American people throughout the United States. Enough is enough. They want change. And that's what you saw in the last November election. And so Trump signifies that shift in the American thought. Whether it comes back around again, time will tell. I'm not sure, but we'll see. But, you know, people should get involved. It's a representative democracy, but it's also a participatory democracy. And when people don't engage and they don't get involved, bad things can happen. And I'm an advocate for more people getting involved.
I know that you've got boots on the ground all the time. I know that you deal personally with constituents. You know, you get involved in their issues and you work towards solutions. You take phone calls. I know that personally because I've sent people to your office. But would you say that there's something to be learned from what Trump has, the concept that he's presented, that you count, you know, and he's kind of removed that whole feeling of manipulation for a lot of people. All of a sudden people feel like, people who like him and hate him both feel like they have a voice now. Can we take anything of that from the elections that are coming up here in the state?
Well,
Would the next governor do well to pay attention and take some notes on what's going on there?
No, I do. I think so, absolutely. And I think any elected official or those who seek elective office that don't pay attention to what happened in the last November election would be foolish. And so this is a wake-up call. And I think that it will serve well. However, the caveat to that is how well Trump serves.
Mm-hmm.
And so he has gained the support of a lot of people in the United States. He is a commander-in-chief now. And, he can't leave people feeling now that they've been manipulated. He's got to be truthful. He's got to be upfront. He's got to serve with force, obviously. But he has to have a compassionate leadership as well. People are expecting things to be accomplished. And one of the ways you're going to have to accomplish things in Washington is to be able to create a sense of cooperation with the administration and with Congress. So a lot will be, we're not going to be able to tell in the first 100 days of his administration. Time will tell, and certainly all Americans should pray that, he does a good job, because we all depend on it.
Mm-hmm.
But what got him there, in my view, is the fact that people have become disenfranchised. They felt that they didn't have a voice, and they rose up and they expressed it. And every elected official, every government official should take note of that.
Yeah, the good part from what I can see is that people on both sides are now taking charge of their, and they're speaking up. That gets the dialogue going, and that stops the torpor. And it just wakes people out of that slumber. And I think you have a lot more people who are tuned. At least people I'm talking to are more tuned into what's going on globally than ever before. We used to just get our noses to the grindstone, get home, get a paycheck, start the next day, do it again.
Well, people are busy in their lives. There's no question about that. It's a struggle.
Yeah.
Families have two wage earners that have to work. They have children to raise. They've got a lot on their plate. And so for them, they count on the people that they elect to represent them in the best fashion that they can. That doesn't often happen. And so I think people are going to pay much more attention to it. And I'm glad they do.
You have a couple of things going on here, and I didn't know which order to take them in, but I just want to start. I want to start not talking about you for a minute.
Okay.
But your colleague Brian Rumpf, who was just appointed to the Beach Erosion Commission. Can you elaborate a little bit about what they're supposed to be doing?
Well, as you know,
I know that he's had an ongoing involvement in that issue going back several years.
Well, for as long as I can remember. Obviously, our shorelines, whether they're the Back Bay areas or our oceanfront areas, are extremely important to all of our residents in Ocean County. And I'll point out to the fact that it's not just the fact that it's a tourism industry that's important to the state of New Jersey. The fact of the matter is we saw after Superstorm Sandy the importance of beach replenishment program. Up to that point, there was a little bit of a dichotomy there, and some people had differences of opinion. I would hear from a lot of people, why should we be dumping sand on the barrier islands to protect the homes of those rich people that live there? And so there was a certain degree of resentment that the amount of money would be spent in order to replenish the beaches. But post-Superstorm Sandy, we saw a much different story. Where we didn't have the beach replenishment, there were breaches, which not only caused devastation on the barrier islands, but caused devastation in the Back Bay areas, which actually suffered as much damage as the barrier islands did.
That's true.
And so you had millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars of lost ratables, both in the barrier island and along the waterfront areas in the Back Bay areas. That loss of ratables means that you and I and everyone else is going to have to pay more to make up for that loss of ratables, not to mention the cost of rehabilitation of all those homes and the other devastation. So the importance of the beach replenishment, I think, became paramount. People all throughout the county could recognize that barrier islands are supposed to be that, barrier. And that's the barrier from the storms that might come in the future. So we have to rehabilitate them, we have to replenish them, and we also have to look at other methodologies that will protect the Back Bay areas. Mayor Spatafor in Stafford Township is now trying to champion a methodology that I think is of significant interest. That is creating berms within the bay by utilizing some of the materials that have maybe in shallow areas of the bay, But the damage that's caused in the Back Bay areas is not so much the height of the water, but it's the velocity of the water carrying over a length of area across the bay called the fetch, and that's what's caused a lot of the storm damage. But by creating berms or breakwaters, natural areas that not only will be significant to habitat development, but also in storm resiliency. And so he's looking at those types of things, and this is what the Soil Erosion Commission, the types of things that they'll be looking into as well. So having Brian on there is going to be very important. I know that he'll be an asset to that commission and certainly carry the voice of the needs of the people in our district.
Is Mayor Spadafora looking at doing this specifically within the Stafford budget and taking it on his own, or is he looking?
No, he's looking at a more global approach, trying to shift the thought process of not only Department of Environmental Protection, the Army Corps of Engineers, the Edwin B. Forsyth National Reservation, but he would utilize perhaps Stafford as a pilot. It's got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And it is a significant amount of money, but what he's looking at now is just money to study it. And he's bringing all the stakeholders to the table. He's gotten some good, people that have good credentials. Dr. Stanley Hales has been involved, Dr. Kenish from Rutgers. He's involving top flight people.
Oh, yeah, he went to the top of the heap on that.
Exactly. And so, and now he's at Bloomberg News down there interviewing. This apparently is stir now in Washington.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a copy of his PowerPoint presentation down there. And it makes a lot of sense. I mean, whether it'll work or not, it remains to be seen. But I think there are certain technologies and methodologies that can be brought to the table that will have a profound effect going forward. As a bayman, as you know, I spend almost the entire year on the water in one fashion or another. There is a rising sea level. There's no question about it. And it is inundating some of the marsh areas within our Back Bay areas.
Mm-hmm.
Those marsh areas are extremely important for the water quality. That's where the filtration system in Obarnegat Bay that helps breed all of the life that's in the bay. We lose those marsh areas, we're in have significant problems. It's also important in terms of the protection of the other transitional areas in the Back Bay, including some of the residences. So we need to find ways to rehabilitate those marshes, bring them up, and I think that Mayor Spadafora's idea is worthy of taking a real strong, hard look at.
That should be something that should be brought up with the Army Corps. I suppose Commissioner Bob Martin from the DP was here last week, and I cornered him, and we talked about it a little bit, and he reminded me that everybody knows about the beach, and at the ocean front, but the Army Corps is working on plans for Back Bay reinforcement, and they're a couple of years out. They're looking at 2019 before they really get this thing solidified.
That's correct, and in fact, just as a follow-up to the comments that I made with regard to Stafford Mayor Spadafora's initiative, is that he has secured a meeting with the Commissioner's office, I think within the next several weeks, and so they're looking at this proposal as well. But the Commissioner, as well as the Army Corps of Engineers, is very serious about addressing the issue.
We have to bring Mayor Spadafora in here.
I think you should, absolutely.
High time we did. Invited him a few times, and he's always busy.
Yeah, now you know why.
A politician who's busy. Wow, what a concept.
Exactly.
Senator Chris Connors is our guest here on Beach Radio 1160 and 1310. We're at 732-505-1160. We're glad to hear from you. We have a lot more to go over, including in the next segment. We're going to be exploring something that the senator is studying very, very deeply, and that is Alzheimer's disease. If you have any interest in this, you'll want to hear about that. So stick around. We'll be right back.
Call now, 732-505-1160. Ask the Senator continues next Beach Radio 1160, 1310, and mybeachradio.com.
At Preferred Home Healthcare and Nursing Services, their certified caregivers can provide a full array of personalized home care designed to enable clients to maintain dignity and independence in the privacy and comfort of their own home. Services are available on an hourly or live-in basis 24/7. For more information, call 1-800-603-CARE or visit preferredcares.com. Home health care with feeling.
At Preferred Home Healthcare, you're in preferred company.
What's up, people? It's Chef Mike from Chef Mike's ABG, South Seaside Park. Spring is here, and we are now open Thursday through Sunday. Thursday, buy one entree, get one half off. Friday is our famous date night, dinner for two with a bottle of wine for $50. And Sundays are fun days at Chef Mike's. Half price tapas and apps, half price wines by the glass and draft beers, and our famous Bloody Marys for just $5. Open Thursday through Sunday at Chef Mike's ABG, 24th and Central Ave, South Seaside Park. And remember, I'm bringing sexy food back.
It's a colorful time of the year at the General's Country Gardens in Whiting. At the General's, there's over 3 acres jam-packed with nursery stock, flowers, garden supplies, and so much more. This year, the General's is proud to say that they are now the biggest full-service garden center and nursery in Ocean County. Forget the big box stores this spring. The General's Country Gardens guarantees you'll find the best selection and price on all trees and shrubs in stock, or they'll beat it. Right now, beautiful blooming azaleas are specially priced, 6 for $20, 6-foot forsythias, 3 for only $34.99, and 4-foot emerald green arborvitaes get 3 for $99. You'll not only find great savings at the General's Country Gardens, but knowledgeable salespeople that can answer all of your lawn and garden questions. See why the General's Country Gardens is your one-stop shop for everything garden. Come out to the country. The General's Country Gardens on Route 70 in Whiting, just west of Route 539. Open 7 days a week.
If you don't think buying a new Nissan is easy, you haven't been to Sansone Jr. 66 Nissan in Neptune.
You're right, Chris. We've taken the mystery out of car buying with upfront pricing online or at the dealership. Just head to 66nissan.com for an instant price quote. And with over 400 new Nissans to choose from, it's easy to get a great deal, like 0% financing for 72 months on 11 new 2017 Nissan models. That's 0% APR for 72 months, plus no payments till July.
Now that's easy. And if life happened to your credit, don't sweat it.
From divorce to bankruptcy, we've helped hundreds of people get back on their feet with dozens of financing options available and guaranteed credit approval in 15 minutes or less.
It just doesn't get any easier than that.
Shop online at 66nissan.com or call 855-66-AUTO-MALL.
Sansone Jr. 66 Nissan, where we work hard to make car buying easy.
On select models, 2 or more at this price, plus taxes, tags, and fees. This month only with approved credit.
Do you need to lower your federal student loan payments? Are you struggling to pay your bills? Well, this message is for you. You may qualify for a $0 payment, and you could also qualify for student loan forgiveness. If you've made payments for years, you may be eligible to have your whole balance forgiven. So much help is available. Find out with one free call which program fits you best. Premier Solution Servicing is A-rated by the Better Business Bureau. Get free information on how to have your student loans forgiven. Talk to a student loan specialist and see if you qualify for lower monthly payments or loan forgiveness. This life-changing consultation is absolutely free. Has your credit been affected by late payments? A Premier Student Advisor can help you get back on track. Best of all of your questions answered in the first free call. So call now. 800-281-9912. 800-281-9912. Don't wait. Call now. 800-281-9912. 800-281-9912.
When Bob and Bonnie Ann McLean visited good friends at Long Beach Island, they didn't realize they would quickly become very acquainted with the legendary care provided by Deborah Heart and Lung Center. Following a 6-mile bike ride, Bob was in some distress. A helicopter rushed Bob to Deborah Heart and Lung Center, where Dr. Paul Burns, a cardiac surgeon, did emergency surgery, repairing Bob's aorta. Bob's life was saved. Watch Bob and Bonnie Ann's heartwarming story at demanddeborah.org.
Jersey Shore weather.
A big warm-up on the way into the start of the weekend. Looks like it is going to be turning a little bit stormy, perhaps, as we start to warm up, especially on Saturday. Not going to rain all day, though, and we're looking dry and cooler Sunday. Overnight, increasing clouds, a low in the mid-50s. Mostly cloudy on Thursday, a high back in the mid-70s. A few scattered storms are possible Thursday night, a low near 60. Clouds and sunshine on Friday, a high of 85. Thunderstorms look possible Saturday with a high in the mid-80s. We're back in the 60s by Sunday. I'm meteorologist Mark Thibodeau.
Keep the questions coming. Call now, 732-505-1160. Follow the show on Twitter and tweet your questions at WOBM. Ask the Senator continues now. Beach Radio 1160, 1310, and mybeachradio.com.
Welcome back. Senator Chris Connors from the 9th District is with us. If you're in Southern Ocean County or parts of Burlington, Atlantic, you know this guy. And you're welcome to give him a blast. Meanwhile, if you're a veteran, you will be especially happy to, if you're not already aware of it, of a law that affects you and housing. And it's something that we kind of watched you create and move along and get to the goal line. And it's more of a guarantee. It puts veterans on more solid footing when they're on the edge about housing. So just elaborate a little bit about it. You should have some bragging rights on this one.
I appreciate that, Tom. It was a long time to be able to get it through, unfortunately, but the fortunate thing is that we did get there. And what it does is it reserves a portion of the vouchers for the rental assistance program for veterans. Prior to the enactment of this law, veterans were forced to go through a transitional housing program before they would be eligible for the rental assistance. This would set aside a portion of those vouchers as grants to veterans by changing the regulations in the rental assistance housing program.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll help a lot of veterans that find themselves in need of trying to find housing.
Yeah, it's an ongoing struggle. A lot of veterans have limited ability to work. They're living on marginal money.
They are, and one of the things that we should all recognize, and most people do, that the veterans at the time of deployment walk away from their jobs, and they leave an income, on the table essentially to serve their country, and then they come back from successfully fulfilling their mission. This rental assistance program is just part of it, but we tried to help them in the employment area. And a couple significant things have happened. First of all, we sponsored and we signed into law the Vet Teach Bill, which is a pilot project at Stockton University that takes a veteran and gives them the opportunity to enter into a 3-year program to earn their baccalaureate and teacher certification. The expenses are paid by the post-9/11 GI Bill. And so they have an abbreviated period of time in order to be able to get their certification, which might normally take as much as 5 years to complete.
Right.
So we can get veterans, get them into a program that allow them to get in the classroom. And the benefit to that is not only they get a job, but we have good mentors in the school system by way of the veterans. We also sponsored and had signed into law a veteran set-aside program, a business set-aside program for municipalities and counties that want to create a set-aside program that a certain amount of their procurement would be set aside for veterans-owned businesses. And then at the state level, yet another bill that would require the Economic Development Authority, along with the State Department of Veteran and Military Affairs, to develop a strategy to promote veterans procurement with the state government. So everything that we can do to try and help the veterans coming out of the system back into the civilian life is a good thing. And so the Senate Veteran and Military Affairs Committee, of which I've been proud to serve on, is working very, very hard in making sure that we make veterans' lives, quality veterans' life, better. One thing that we haven't been able to achieve yet, and I'm not sure that we're going to be able to do it in the near future because it's a cost factor involved, is that we sponsored a bill called The Vet is a Vet. Believe it or not, there are a number of veterans that are not eligible for a number of veterans benefit programs.
What excludes them?
What excludes them is where the area or theater in which they may have served, or they weren't in active duty service in an area of conflict. They may have been serving, but they weren't in those areas, and so they would not be eligible for, let's say, the 100% service-connected disability, for property taxes, and some other types of veterans programs.
Splitting hairs.
It's splitting hairs. It's actually splitting our veterans, and we shouldn't be doing that. A veteran should be a veteran, and whether you're deployed somewhere stateside or you're deployed somewhere overseas, the fact of the matter is when you're in active duty service, you're capable and willing and able to go anywhere in this world that may be experiencing a conflict. You're trained to do that. The sacrifice you make is significant. And so, regardless of where you served, should not be the determination as to whether you receive a benefit. The holdback, of course, is the cost of being able to bring more veterans into that program. But most everyone supports it, and I think if we ever get to a situation where we're better off from a budget standpoint, that this is a bill that will move.
I know it was because of a lot of prodding from you that a lot of veterans don't have to pay a fortune to get on the beach anymore.
Well, we sponsored that legislation as well, and we're signing a law recently that would give either eliminate or reduce fare for active duty personnel and National Guard members and their families. So it's a small token, we know, but certainly we should be recognizing their service to our country.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. The other thing that you were way ahead of the curve on, and I go back well over when I first started working here, you were pushing the, and it was always renewed.
Probably as long as
back
I've
when
been
dinosaurs roamed the earth. The Get Hooked on Fishing, Not on Drugs bill, and that would come up every year. And and I got to admit, before there was an opiate problem here, I was like, oh, here's this bill again, and it's about fishing, and it's great. Okay, fine. It seems like now that is probably one of the most useful pieces of legislation that can be directed at kids now.
Well, I think it's axiomatic to say that the sooner that you can reach children, the better off you are in this war against drugs, or anything for that matter. And I think that's where a lot of our efforts should be directed, at the youngest levels. And there are alternative activities that are rewarding, that are fun, and are healthy, and would help in trying to divert the attention to these other activities. So Hooked on Fishing, Not on Drugs was an important thing for our delegation. It took a long time to finally get it over the finish line. And sometimes you have to wonder, why does something simple and easy that everybody can support take so long? But I've seen a number of examples in other settings. I mean, we've had a bill in for many, many years that would require home health care workers to have criminal background checks. After all, these are people that are going to watch your grandmother and grandfather, and we want to make sure that they're good, upstanding citizens and not people that are going to take advantage of those that are less able to watch for themselves and are elderly. That bill languished for many years, and it took, unfortunately, an incident that happened in Brick, where a 72-year-old lady was stabbed multiple times and killed by a home health care worker that had a criminal record. The bill passed swiftly after that. Or the bill that we had that would allow security forces at nuclear facilities to carry automatic weapons.
That took a long time.
That took a long time, too. I mean, it makes a lot of sense that an individual protecting a nuclear facility should have something more than just a pea shooter or a six-shooter sidearm. The individuals that are likely to challenge someone is going to have an armament that's much more significant than that. But they were restricted by our assault weapons ban in New Jersey and couldn't do anything other than carry that six-shooter, that Colt. So the bill finally became law after 9/11. So sometimes things just take a long time. And
sometimes
Hooked on
there has
Fishing,
to be a catalyst.
Drugs, and now we have an opiate problem that's raised the conscience of a lot of people. But I think that bill would be helpful in combating it.
You must have been riding on air when the governor's February address was all about addressing this problem and devoting his entire last year to working on this issue and finding solutions.
Well, he's been a great spokesperson on this issue, and everybody knows what a problem it is. It is an epidemic. it is stealing lives of many, many people at all ages, all economic status, regardless. It has no boundaries. And it's hard to see a day go by without hearing the effects of opiate addiction. So the governor has taken the bull by the horns and has created a number of issues and a number of initiatives, I should say, to deal with the problem. And I think it's going to have, a good effect. I think we'll have some model programs here in New Jersey that will be looked at throughout the country. But it is a very, very serious problem. And I'm told, I was in a community the other night, that I was told that probably 80% of the amount of crimes that they've had committed in this town are drug-related.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the toll, that's the expense that it's taking on. It's not only robbing lives, but it's robbing people in terms of the crime rate.
One of the things that happens in the legislature, and I've been told this by more than one legislator, is that the reason something falls down or languishes, as the term used, there are priorities. And something always will rise to the top because it's a hot button issue, or it's a sexy issue, or something along those lines, and it's gathering, it's sucking up all the heat, and you got to do something about it. Everything else has to take a back seat to that, and this happens over and over again. And what I notice is that you're not so you're aware and you're involved in those gigantic issues. But, for every marquee on Broadway, there's some electrician behind there who's making sure the lights go on. And that's what you do a lot of the time. One of those is the Domestic Violence Assessment Bill. Now, that is still gestating in there. But I think it's a really important bill, and I just want you to explain what that is, because it hit me when you talked about the brick incident. There have been so many incidents where restraining orders have not held, and where there have been tragedies where they didn't have to be. And you're trying to address this.
Well, it makes, to me, it's just common sense that there should be an evaluation, there should be an assessment of an individual that is involved in domestic violence, that they're not going or likely to commit other violent acts before they're released onto the street. Time and time again, we hear the tragic stories of an individual that either domestic violence restraining orders were ignored, or, in fact, they violated them, they're incarcerated, and they're released. And they're released back on the street, and they go right back to the victim. We can't have those kind of tragedies. And so it makes a lot of sense. Paralleling that bill that we have in the legislature is also another bill that would require the same type of reassessment on Megan law violators, or in terms of tiering. Sex offenders should be tiered before they're released and not after they're released. And we've seen a significant interest that has been developed in that bill as a result of the problem down in Little Egg, where an individual was released in the public and then violated the Megan's law yet again. And so we put vulnerable people at risk when we don't take the extra time to do the reassessments that need to be done, whether it be domestic violence or whether it be sexual offenders. That needs to be done in order to protect the people, and it seems to me to make an awful lot of sense.
You think that bail reform is going to be another obstacle to this, because they're still working out the kinks on this?
There's a lot of kinks in it, and it's proving to be very costly to municipalities and taxpayers.
Have to pay money every time they have to send a municipal attorney out there.
Correct. You're absolutely right. And the whole premise upon which it was passed, and the voters approved it actually by referendum, was to make sure that the most serious offenders stayed behind bars, and only those lesser offenders were the ones that were released and not clogging, our prison system. Unfortunately, there are a lot of kinks, and part of it is the assessment process that is been used to determine whether an individual is at risk. The Ocean County Chiefs of Police Association has been a great advocate for making corrections to the assessment, and I think their voice has been heard. So there's a lot of things that have to be worked out before we know whether it's an absolute failure or whether it's a success. I think we need to take the time to work out some of those kinks and then reevaluate it at that time.
Yeah, I mean, I get moving somebody through the system. There's no point in having somebody languishing in a holding cell for a couple of weeks.
Correct.
But the scope of knowledge that a judge is required to have to determine whether an offender or a suspect meets the criteria for release, that's very limited.
Right.
That's got to change.
Most definitely.
You have to know more about this before you can come to an educated decision as to whether that guy should stay or go.
And
that might take a little longer.
It might take a little longer. In the same token, when they do get that evaluation, they need to listen to it.
Yeah.
Because in the case of Ocean County, it could arguably was a situation where there were people that did have knowledge that perhaps wasn't being listened to.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, there was another bite out of the apple, and then after the reassessment, the right thing happened. But you're absolutely right. And when these programs are rolled out, that's when we find out that there's a problem, and it needs to be addressed expeditiously.
Senator Chris Connors is our guest. We have a few more minutes with him, and we are glad to have you with us, too. So stick around. We're coming right back.
More of Ask the Senator coming up next. Beach Radio 1160, 1310, and mybeachradio.com.
If you don't think buying a new Nissan is easy, you haven't been to Sansone Jr. 66 Nissan in Neptune.
You're right, Chris. We've taken the mystery out of car buying with upfront pricing online or at the dealership. Just head to 66nissan.com for an instant price quote. And with over 400 new Nissans to choose from, it's easy to get a great deal, like 0% financing for 72 months on 11 new 2017 Nissan models. That's 0% APR for 72 months, plus no payments till July.
Now that's easy. And if life happens to your credit, don't sweat it.
From divorce to bankruptcy, we've helped hundreds of people get back on their feet with dozens of financing options available and guaranteed credit approval in 15 minutes or less.
It just doesn't get any easier than that.
Shop online at 66nissan.com or call 855-66-AUTO-MALL.
Sansone Jr. 66 Nissan, where we work hard to make car buying easy.
On select models, 2 or more at this price, plus taxes, tags, and fees. This month only with approved credit.
Here's a special message for those of you who owe the IRS at least $10,000 or more in back taxes. The IRS has special programs in place that could eliminate or reduce your tax debt by thousands of dollars. Call the Tax Mediation Hotline that's been set up to help you. 800-486-9020. Stop the wage garnishments, levies, and tax liens now. Once you've qualified and enrolled, the IRS will stop all the collection activities against you. These unique programs have been allocated to help the economy and significantly reduce or eliminate your tax burden. The IRS is currently accepting reduced settlements and other favorable programs. You may qualify for substantial savings, so get the help you need. If you owe more than $10,000 in taxes, call for free information and to see if you qualify. Take down the number now for the Tax Mediation Hotline, 800-486-9020. That's 800-486-9020. 800-486-9020.
It's a colorful time of the year at the General's Country Gardens in Whiting. At the General's, there's over 3 acres jam-packed with nursery stock, flowers, garden supplies, and so much more. This year, the General's is proud to say that they are now the biggest full-service garden center and nursery in Ocean County. Forget the big box stores this spring. The General's Country Gardens guarantees you'll find the best selection and price on all trees and shrubs in stock, or they'll beat it. Right now, beautiful blooming azaleas are specially priced, 6 for $20, 6-foot forsythias, 3 for only $34.99, and 4-foot emerald green arborvitaes get 3 for $99. You'll not only find great savings at the General's Country Gardens, but knowledgeable salespeople that can answer all of your lawn and garden questions. See why the General's Country Gardens is your one-stop shop for everything garden. Come out to the country. The General's Country Gardens on Route 70 in Whiting, just west of Route 539. Open 7 days a week.
Tune in and listen to Lou Scatigna, host of the Financial Physician radio program, heard every Sunday at 11 a.m. on Beach Radio 1160 and 1310. And now, here's some great news. You can now listen to each week's show online for a full week after the original broadcast. Just go to mybeachradio.com or thefinancialphysician.com and hear the show anytime you want. And be sure to join Lou Scatigna each and every Sunday at 11 a.m. for the Financial Physician, right here on Beach Radio 1160 and 1310.
Tune in every Wednesday at 7:30 a.m. right before Preferred Company with Joel and Marianne for the lighter side of finance, hosted by David Crossan.
David is a financial advisor with a certified financial planner designation and senior vice president of investments with Wells Fargo Advisors. He'll lighten your day with practical financial guidance.
Be sure to join David Crossan Wednesdays at 7:30 a.m. for the lighter side of finance on Beach Radio 1160, 1310, and mybeachradio.com.
Wells Fargo Advisors, LLC is a registered broker-dealer and a separate non-bank affiliate of Wells Fargo and Company.
Beach Radio is 1160 WOBM Lakewood Township, 1310 WADB Asbury Park, and mybeachradio.com, a Town Square media station. More of the Jersey Shore's best oldies next.
Hi, Marianne Levy, Beach Radio 1160 1310 and mybeachradio.com, broadcast from the Preferred Home Healthcare Studio. Since 1987, Preferred has offered the highest degree of care. Preferred Home Healthcare with feeling.
Your voice can be heard at the State House. Call 732-505-1160 or tweet your question at WOBM. This is Ask the Senator. Beach Radio 1160, 1310, and mybeachradio.com.
Senator Chris Connors is our guest, and he'll be for another few minutes. And thank you for joining us tonight. And thank you, Senator. There's one other thing that I do want to get to. I promised you a little while ago we were going to get to this, so here it is. The syndrome that is Alzheimer's is totally consuming, whether you're a victim or whether you're a caretaker. And there's nothing more heartbreaking than watching someone lose that cognitive ability or being someone slowly seeing the walls come in and envelop you. You're involved in a study about this. Tell us what you're doing, because this is critical.
Well, Tom, thank you for raising the issue. It is something near and dear to me. I can tell you that 4 or 5 years ago, when I sponsored the legislation to create the Alzheimer's Study Commission, which was signed into law and was duly constituted, which I had the opportunity to serve on, I never knew that it was going to touch my life as personally as it did, because then 4 years thereafter, I would lose my father to Alzheimer's disease, December 4, 2016. He was a great man of enormous stature in the landscape of politics in New Jersey. He was a great guy. He helped a lot of people. He was just a giant of an individual that we all miss. To watch him with the effects of the hideous disease of Alzheimer's is just gripping. When I served on a commission and I sponsored the bill, there was no indication that my father would ever have Alzheimer's disease. And I listened to a lot of people throughout the process of the commission study, but it really hit home when his life was taken by it. And so it's real to me. There are 177,000 people in the state of New Jersey with Alzheimer's, 177,000. By 2025, it's estimated there'll be over 210,000 people with Alzheimer's. By 2050, it'll triple. 5 million people in the country that have Alzheimer's. As our population ages, those numbers will increase. It is a hideous disease that robs individuals of their mind and their body. It is progressive. It is irreversible. It is degenerative, neurological issue. And it is stripping people not only of life, but of financial resources. Mm-hmm. Families contending with a loved one with Alzheimer's will find that in many cases, the caretaker has to quit work. they lose wages and income. It strips them of their wealth. Soon their assets will be depleted by the required care of an Alzheimer's patient. Then they go on Medicaid
Right.
after they lose their house and their assets. And then it becomes a publicly funded, in part, program. It is costing billions of dollars. There is no cure. And the impact that it has on resources is enormous. And so the study commission was constituted for the purposes of studying the incidence of Alzheimer's and trying to develop a strategy for addressing it in the future and determining what the impact was going to be. That study was issued to the governor and to the legislature in August of 2016 after several years of receiving testimony and information from healthcare professionals, caretakers, people with Alzheimer's. That report was about 60 pages. Very, very interesting. I would recommend any of the WOBM listeners to get a copy of the report. You can get it online. You go to the State Department of Human Services website and click on the appropriate buttons to get the report. And if you need a specific site, anyone calling our office at 609-693-6700, we'll give them the website for it. But it's a very comprehensive report, and the growing elderly population that we have here in Ocean County, as you know, we have the highest number of residents age 65 and over of any place in the state of New Jersey. This is why it was a significant interest to us as a delegation. But it is a very, very tragic infliction of anybody, and the toll that it takes. They say it's a disease that has more than one victim, and they couldn't be any more right. I saw the devastating effects that it had on my mother, who was my father's caretaker for a number of his condition progressed quite rapidly.
Right.
There are people who can live with Alzheimer's for 20 years, and that is even more devastating. So we need to create an awareness, and government has to look at strategies for dealing with this in the future as we talk about health care costs and addressing the issue.
Who are some of the people who are on the commission?
Well, actually, my good friend, colleague, Senator Van Drew, as you know, he and I have often co-sponsored legislation together and served on commissions, including the Veterans Hospital Task Force Commission. We joint sponsor of the bill that created that commission and served as co-chairs of that commission. He was on that commission, and we had a number of experts, I'll call, serve on a commission. But that report will delineate all the members that were on the commission and the great work that they did in producing the report.
What would be the best outcome of all of this research and all of that study and that report? What would you want to see happen, especially knowing what you know now?
Well, first of all, to make sure that we develop the necessary resources that are out there in the medical community to accommodate individuals that have Alzheimer's. You can only provide a home setting for so long. In many cases, progress to a degree where home health care is not an option anymore, either because of the medical needs that are required. There are wander risks, fall risks. It can affect an individual's personality changes. They can become aggressive. And so there's a need to make sure that there's appropriate nursing home facilities and that they have the resources to deal with it as well. But a recognition of the fact that it's stripping people of their assets. And so first and foremost, obviously, we have to pay attention and determine whether we have the resources to find a cure and assist in that regard and fund studies hopefully one day we'll have a cure of Alzheimer's.
Interestingly enough, it was just last week on these airwaves, Jimmy Webb, the songwriter, was delineating. He just this past weekend performed at Ocean County College, and his repertoire was the complete body of work that he wrote and that Glenn Campbell popularized. And Glenn Campbell is in advanced stages now. He's in a home in Nashville. And Jimmy Webb is not on the road for this for the money. He's doing this, he said, because he wants people to remember him for his artistry, not for his condition. Next week, he's doing something at Carnegie Hall with like tons of people, everybody who's ever worked with him, and they're all performing and they're raising money for Alzheimer's research. This has become a major issue for him. You know, in all these different disparate ways, everybody's working toward the same thing, and everybody understands the problem here. You do just as he does.
Well, Tom, Glenn Campbell put a face on the disease. There was no
He
question
maybe
about
even
it.
more than Ronald Reagan.
I think so, because what it did is it allowed the people, and he opened up his life, his family opened up their lives, to give people a glimpse at the effects of Alzheimer's over a period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's tragic. His family, they had a tremendous amount of resources, who wanted to provide a setting at home and a lifestyle for him to accommodate his illness. In the end, weren't able to do that. He still had to wind up going into a home.
Yeah.
Most of the residents don't have the kind of resources that
No,
Glenn Campbell
you
had.
don't even know what you're going to need.
You don't even know.
You can't
You
plan
don't
ahead.
even know. And if you're talking about a nursing facility that could cost as much as $10,000 a month.
Easily.
And it's either private pay or Medicaid. Could it be Medicaid? You got to spend everything you have in order to get to that point. It's just, it's horrific. It's horrific. But it's going to have a tremendous cost on the healthcare system as well. So we need to pay attention to it.
What else you got on the horizon? What are
We're
some
busy.
of the other bills?
We-
What's some
we-
of the?
we- well, dealing with the opiate crisis, yet another bill that languishes, is a
It
bill
says
that,
opiate, it's not languishing anymore.
well, I hope not, and myself as well as Senator Van Drew, and it's really a lot of work that's done by Assemblyman Rumpf and Assemblywoman Gove, but the idea actually came as a result of discussions we've had with the Ocean County prosecutor, who does, yeoman's job in addressing the opiate problem here in Ocean County. But it's a bill that essentially classifies drugs in the level of offense based on units, not on weight. Right now, the weight of cocaine determines the level of the offense in terms of distribution
Right.
and charge. This would be units, because heroin is much more powerful than it ever has been. And so by recognizing you don't have to have the same quantity of heroin to have the same devastating impact, that our bill would address it based on unit as opposed to weight.
You had the discussion with Ocean County Prosecutor Coronado, didn't you?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And that's where the idea had come from. He's where the rubber meets the road. He sees this problem day in and day out, and it has been the main focus of the prosecutor's office, and he's done an incredible job here in Ocean County.
When a bill's in committee and you're in the minority party, how difficult is it to get, hello, can we get moving on this?
Which is precisely why I have my good friend, Senator Jeff Van Drew. We have a mutual respect for each other. We trust each other. We've developed a friendship over the years. And we often co-sponsor or co-prime legislation, and that's what's helpful. It is helpful to have a friend on the other side of the aisle. And so it can be very, very difficult. I would tell my constituents and all the listeners to OBM today that write this number down, because this explains everything in the state of New Jersey, why things are the way they are, and what the likelihood of changes are in major issues like school funding or any other issue for that matter. 41, 21, and 1. That's the number it takes for a bill to pass and be signed into law. 41 assembly people, 21 senators, and 1 governor to sign it. As you know, there are 40 legislative districts. Each one has 1 senator and 2 assembly people. So if there are 80 assemblymen, you need 41 to pass a bill. 40 senators, you need 21. Now, each district is comprised based on population. They take the decennial census, they divide it by 40, and that's how many people have to be in each legislative district.
Mm-hmm.
Ninth legislative district is the third largest geographically in the state of New Jersey because we need a bigger net cast in order to bring in 237,000 people.
Right.
But if you go up to Essex County, there may be as many as 5 or 6 senators that represent portions of Essex County.
Sure, you're talking about blocks up there.
Right. So when you talk about votes, 41, 21, and 1, the major preponderance of the votes are in those urban areas. So when you have 30 Abbott districts that consume 56 to 60% of all state aid funding, where the rest of the 580 some odd school districts share in 44%, even though they only educate 20% of the pupils in the state of New Jersey, there's no incentive for those legislators to change a school funding formula because it's working in those particular districts. And so you fight that issue all the time, day in and day out, on a legislative basis. You have to recognize, Republican or Democrat, in South Jersey, it's much more difficult because North Jersey always has it.
Well, we're in a year for change. You never know. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it.
You can also find him at connors.senate.nj.com. He's on Facebook and Twitter, and he has an RSS feed, too. And if you missed any portion of the program, you can catch it on mybeachradio.com. Ask the Senator is a presentation of Townsquare Media's Shore News Division. Our board operator and call screener is Mark Anthony. Audio and video coordinators Bradley James and Tom Tremley. And our regional operations manager is Steve Artolino. I'm Tom Angeli. Thanks for joining us.
You've been listening to Ask the Senator, a presentation of WOBM News, Beach Radio, 1160, 1310, and mybeachradio.com. Live from the Preferred Home Healthcare Studio, it's another hour of beach music. This is Beach Radio 1160, 1310, and mybeachradio.com.
The Jersey Shore's best oldies, Beach Radio. The Jersey Shore.